want, you're fighting like lines of redcoats, what you'd really need is a good amount of guns as well. We've no shotgun, we can hack up there over to iron.
Behind me, yet another group of disaffected Ulstermen plot rebellion in a village tavern. Since the formation 7 years ago of the Society of United Irishmen in the nearby town of Belfast, scenes like this have become ever more commonplace. The arrest last month of several of the organisation's leaders has already prompted sporadic fighting in the south of the country, and the time for talking is over.
Show your pike! Quick!
There are overtones here of the 1776 American War of Independence, in which many Ulstermen took part, and of the more recent revolution in France. At the core of their grievance, the fact that Catholics and Presbyterians here have no vote and must furthermore pay a portion of their income to support the established Church of Ireland. Merchant and tradesmen stand shoulder to shoulder here, united in their effort to achieve social and religious liberty for all, and increasingly that has meant coming into conflict with the authority of the Crown.
You have a situation throughout Ireland of totally inadequate parliamentary representation, poor distribution of resources, serious restrictions on the likes of education and on people practicing their chosen religion. We've tried to remedy these situations as a pressure group, and it hasn't worked. We've been on the receiving end of constant threats and violence from the Crown forces.
But in provoking this confrontation, do you not run the risk of firstly alienating those people who might share your beliefs but not your methods, and secondly, and perhaps more importantly, of aggravating old sectarian grievances?
Well, anyone who's had dealings with the Lord Lieutenant's office in Dublin will know all too well the complacency of His Majesty's government in Ireland. I think we all realise that an organised rising is the only option left to us. And in answer to the second part of your question, we have among our number established church, Roman Catholics and Presbyterian folk from every walk of life, and prepared to fight and, if necessary, die together in common cause.
McCracken and the other United Irish leaders, most notably Theobald Wolfe Tone, Bartholomew Teeling and Samuel Nielsen, are already very well known to Army intelligence gatherers. So General George Nugent, commanding officer of Crown forces in Ulster, is under no illusion about the threat they pose. I hear that the United Irish have been successfully recruiting from within your own ranks.
I wouldn't call it successful. We've had a problem or two within the Monaghan militia at Blair's camp, but we've nipped those activities in the bud and made an example of those involved. I think it's rather more relevant to consider those who remain loyal. The Orange Order, the Yeomanry of Protestant and Catholic. Let us not forget either those who move among the rebels, but who appreciate that their ultimate allegiance is to king and country.
He refers here to the paid informants who represent the greatest of all threats to the United Irish cause. But, regardless of this, there is a grim determination among the small rebel bands who all over the country are preparing for the conflict which is now inevitable.
I know my life and what it's like and how much better it would be if there was some justice in this land.
My landlord, William Moore, a God-fearing man, was hung last year on trumped-up charge. This is the hat he gave me as he stood on the gallows, and I'm here to remember him, and for the sake of the 5 wains he left behind.
Well, Sean here's a Roman Catholic. I'm what you call a dissenter, Presbyterian. We're too hard done by groups of people. However bad it gets when we meet the foe, it can't be worse than it is now.
Well said.
Our sources tell us that this is just one of many local gatherings of United Irish forces north of Belfast, most of which it seems are now on the move to Donegal Hill between Ballyclare and the town of Antrim. People here are calling it the turnout. Similar activity appears to be underway around Mahara on the far side of Lough Neagh. This woman voiced the concerns of many that I've encountered, worried about what exactly will happen in the days and weeks ahead.
My youngest is only 14, and him away with a turf spade over his shoulder. This is all we have, and it's hard enough to keep without fighting other people's battles for them. I mean, a turf spade against muskets and cannon. God help us.
Now, looking around me here within the rebel encampment, I see a great many men. Perhaps not as great as might have been hoped. Some groups simply haven't turned up, but there are many, many hundreds nonetheless, and the mood seems to be by and large positive. Whether we'll be able to say the same in 24 hours remains to be seen. This is Patrick Fitzsimons for News 98 on Donegal Hill in County Antrim.
The rebels have been on the move since before dawn, some of them here to the market town of Randalstown, northwest of Antrim. We believe they're pinned down inside is a small contingent of Toom Yeomanry commanded by Captain Henry Ellis. Excuse me, can I ask you how many people are pinned down inside the building?
I say about 3 to 4 dozen, but we shot away in them before they got into the market house. But we're burning.
There's something happening now.
You're under arrest, sir. You and your men can consider yourselves prisoners of war. Hand over your weapons and powder.
I trust you intend to deal fairly with us.
Hang on.
Whoever you are.
The name is George Dixon, and I will go easy on you if you turn over that red coat and fight for your own country.
I already do, sir. And will again. Any treasonous rebel who defies the king's authority, well, God's pity on you.
Keep your hands take them on the Broken Island.
Let me go.
Well, an early victory it seems there for the United Irish, and looking about me, with only light casualties on both sides.
News continues to reach us of other engagements around the country. At Glenarm, where the rebels have taken hostages, and in County Londonderry, where United Irish defections and poor leadership, combined with the threat of attack by Crown forces under Brigadier General John Knox, has effectively killed off the rising there.
Ballymena is now in rebel hands. We're here, and here in Antrim, a huge insurgent force, somewhere in the region of 4,000, have just entered the town under Henry Joy McCracken himself, and have just engaged with a cavalry unit in the town's Scotch quarter. With me here is Peggy Gordon, one of the town's citizens, sheltering within the walls of Lord Mazarine's estate at Antrim Castle. Peggy, you've already played a considerable part in what's been a very tense afternoon so far.
You'll have to excuse me. I'm still shaking. Oh.
You're fine. Can you tell me what happened today?
I was helping to rescue some of the cannon that we thought might have been lost to the rebels. Oh, my heart's never been so bad.
Has the mood in the town been bad over the last couple of days?
Aye, well, it has, I suppose. But this large force of rebels has come from outside the town, you must remember. Antrim is far and away a loyal town as far as I'm concerned. I'm not sure now, but I've heard there's reinforcements on the way. And McCracken and his boys could well rue this day before it's out.
Peggy, thank you very much indeed.
That evening, members of the press were given a briefing at the temporary Army HQ in Belfast, where General Nugent's aide-de-camp read a short statement.
Inform you of the following. In the last few minutes, we have received information regarding today's assault by the rebels on the town of Antrim. That attack has now been repulsed with only minor losses due to the prompt actions of the Antrim Yeomanry and the swift arrival of Colonels Durham and Clavering. The rebels are now in hasty retreat. Sadly, we must report that the Right Honourable the Lord O'Neill was numbered among the fatalities. Regarding rumours currently circulating that a rebel force now commands the town of Ballymena, the Army are not aware of any such situation, but we will be making further regular statements.
Apologies, we will not be taking any further questions today.
One of those who attended the briefing is Ebenezer Black, printer of the Belfast newsletter, who have been carrying extensive coverage of recent events.
This has actually been a remarkable time to be involved in publishing. There's been a real boom in printed material, newspapers, pamphlets and all, and there is some remarkable technology now available to us. More people are reading and becoming politically aware. You see, what is going on at the minute isn't really that surprising when you see what has gone on in France with the revolution there, the Enlightenment, and with the rebellion in the American colonies.
And how difficult is it to remain impartial given that the conflict is so close to home?
Well, despite the fact that Henry Joy McCracken's grandfather actually started this newspaper, we've always taken great pride in our impartial stance. We're no Northern Star, Mr. Nielsen sheet. That was decidedly United Irish in its sympathies. We're still more dependent than I would like on official dispatches and on overseas news, for example, for a lot of our information. But where possible, like today's battle in Antrim, we'll have it well covered.
Well, someone who very likely won't be canvassed for their opinion on what happened in Antrim today is Henry Joy McCracken. Mr. McCracken, where does today's loss leave the United Irish cause?
Well, it's a huge setback, there's no question, and I blame my own poor leadership. I'm particularly upset at the news of brutal reprisals in the town conducted by the Monaghan militia against innocent men, women and children. I can assure you that this righteous cause is far from over.
Well, have we in fact seen the last major engagement of this rising, or are there more to come? Tomorrow is another day. This is Patrick Fitzsimons for News 98 at a United Irish hideout somewhere in County Antrim.
There was a time when I would not have had difficulty in paying an oath of allegiance to my king and sovereign. Until that is, the paying of it became a problem in itself. 4 shillings and 4pence is the sum you must pay to be considered a loyal subject. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there are, as you well know, a great many for whom such a sum is unreasonable, to say the least. And are they to be considered traitor? Surely not. You know there's only one wrath of which I live in fear. So I care not about those who label me the trumpeter of sedition, when I put it to you again that the time has come for radical steps to be taken to overhaul this iniquitous system of government under which all people here in Ireland currently labour.
The Reverend Steele Dixon speaking recently in Portaferry, one of a number of Presbyterian ministers active within the Ulster Society of United Irishmen, and arrested 4 days ago in Ballynahinch on suspicion of being a leading member of the rebel forces in County Down. Looking around me in Ballymena this morning, I don't see many men of the cloth, but perhaps upwards of 7,000 of this citizen army. The occupation of the town began about this time yesterday following a confrontation here at the Market House, and perhaps you could tell me exactly what happened yesterday.
Aye, surely. There's only half a dozen of the garrison here when we came into the head of the town. We burned them out in the end. There's a young schoolmaster commanding them who held out to the end.
Oh, this is Mr. Davison. He was executed, I believe.
Aye, well, executed or murdered from what I saw. To be honest now, there's a lot of behaviour I wouldn't be proud of. A lot of drunkenness in the street last night. A lot of young'uns with the blood up, you know. There's some sort of committee have taken charge, but I don't know. We were just saying there, we can't really see where all this is going. There's a few of us maybe thinking about leaving it at that, you know.
But deserting?
Just going home. If I've got a home to go to. The soldiers are reckoning round about them, from what I hear. And I only live a couple of miles down the road, and I think I've done my bit.
Well, exactly what this apparently victorious rebel army intend to do next remains to be seen. That's a point I put earlier to Dr. John Patrick and James Dickey of the newly inaugurated Committee of Public Safety.
There have been a large number of men gathered in the town, and keeping order is our first priority. There have been a number of incidents, but that's been unavoidable.
We've been gathering a large quantity of supplies for the main force. We've been doing it in the most ordered manner possible. At the same time, we've had to mete out justice to those that will not be subdued, and also to those in the surrounding areas who apparently have been supplying information to the enemy. And listen, you may say what you want about the folk around here, but I can assure you what's happened is nothing compared to the brutalities that have been carried out by the so-called authorities.
And how has news of the defeat at Antrim affected morale?
Well, a few reports have been filtering through, but we've been keeping that information to ourselves and not making it widely known. Well, for obvious reasons.
It just serves to make the situation here in Ballymena all the more important. But I can assure you that there are more positive actions occurring elsewhere.
We were briefly allowed to see some of those captured during the taking of Ballymena, who sat confined and terrified in a small dungeon on the ground floor of the ruined Market House, and for whom the last few hours in particular have been something of a nightmare.
There's some madmen. You don't know whether your next breath's going to be your last. You just hope they're going to see some sense.
Had they been able to hear it, perhaps the evening press briefing at Army headquarters in Belfast might have offered some comfort.
The rising in the far north of the country, Coleraine, Ballymoney and elsewhere has mercifully not materialised in the manner first anticipated. Lord Henry Murray, in command of most of that district, has been engaged largely in preventative actions in the region. It would seem that most significant rebel attention has been focused on the town of Ballymena, wherein we know morale to be low, and which we expect will capitulate within the next 24 hours.
What we've encountered on the roads of County Antrim certainly bears testament to the Army's statement that the rising is all but over in this part of the country, with the winning cards seeming to be in the hands of Crown forces, yet the disaffected citizens of Ulster still prepare their pikes in anticipation of further action. Exactly where or when the next flashpoint will occur is anyone's guess. This is Patrick Fitzsimons for News 98 on the outskirts of Belfast. Excuse me, can I ask you where you're coming from this morning?
Clancy.
And bound for?
Kyle Green in the village of Saintfield.
Thank you. The United Irish Rising is underway in County Down. That it continues to be used in some quarters as an excuse for exacting revenge and settling old scores is yet again evident. This morning the McKee family perished here at their farmhouse near Saintfield. The ruins of it still smoulder behind me. They were known in the area to have been informers, and this morning they paid the ultimate price. At Cumber, Colonel Chetwynd Stapleton prepared to move out at the head of the York Fencibles, along with Newtonard's yeomanry and a force of civilian volunteers.
We know that the rebels can often command large numbers, but if the last few days have illustrated anything, it is a total lack of discipline. I am fortunate to have under my command a very highly motivated and experienced force, and I am confident that we can suppress the disturbance in a very short period of time.
Did anybody give you the order to whistle? Silence in the ranks.
We were permitted to accompany the army on their march towards Saintfield. The weather was again fine, and despite the purpose of their mission, as we approached the edge of the village, the mood among the soldiers appeared good. While an encounter with a rebel force was always a possibility, nothing had prepared us for what was about to happen. I'm with a group of survivors from the ambush in Saintfield. We've managed to get a couple of miles away in the direction of Cumber. Losses were very heavy and prisoners were taken. Personally speaking, I found it one of the most harrowing experiences of my life, and I wonder what those around me feel.
I can't believe it. It should never have happened. I've lost many a good friend today. Just left them lying there in the field. It should never have happened.
Gentlemen, while our actions in County Antrim have proved most effective, sadly I must inform you of a major setback to our suppression of the rebellion in County Down. The Cumber garrison, numbering almost 300, was yesterday ambushed by rebels at Saintfield, sustaining heavy casualties. This afternoon, after mounting successful defences, the garrisons at Newtonards and Portaferry have been withdrawn in order to bolster the defensive line around Belfast. Lieutenant Colonel George Stewart has taken a large force from Lisburn and Hillsborough to secure firstly Balnahinch and from there Downpatrick. General Nugent is himself preparing to take the field against a rebel contingent estimated in the excess of 15,000. It is expected now that every man should perform his duty. God save the King. We ourselves had now moved back toward the rebel base at the Creevy Rocks close to Saintfield. The tension was clearly etched on the faces of those we encountered on the road. The people at the camp itself appeared more buoyant, defiant indeed, a mood seemingly brought about by the arrival of a determined new commander, the linen merchant Henry Munro of Lisburn.
This is an ironic situation I find myself in. My direct ancestor, Major General Robert Munro, was engaged in putting down an Irish rebellion about 150 years ago, and here I am leading one. But then this is not a rebellion, this is a national liberty war. It's a task which must be faced up to, and which I confront wholeheartedly.
And are you hopeful for your cause?
Am I hopeful? I don't think hope enters into it. On the face of it, our cause in Antrim is all but lost. I am hopeful of meeting again with McCracken, as we here in Down carry on the fight. But we will carry on regardless.
Such are the sizes of the forces that have taken the field that one senses not only that the next engagement will be large, but that it will prove to be of key importance to the outcome of Ulster's rebellion. This is Patrick Fitzsimons for News 98 at the Creevy Rocks near Saintfield.
It was some sight. Cavalry, infantry and artillery. It took an hour to pass by. I wouldn't want to be in the rebel shoes this morning.
A Belfast yeoman describes the departure from the town this morning of troops under General George Nugent. I'm standing now on Ednavady Hill near the town of Balnahinch, to which the rebel force decamped yesterday. We think that the sound of drumming we can hear in the distance marks the position of General Nugent's column now. He and Lieutenant Colonel Stewart, who arrived in the area some time ago, have already dislodged a body of Munro's men from a nearby hill and have put them into the trees. The rebels have regrouped now within the Montalto estate of the Earl of Moira. We've been under heavy fire all evening, still the odd shot being loosed off. And this certainly seems to be having an effect psychologically. Henry Munro, there seem to have been a great many desertions this evening.
I certainly think that's the case, but we still have considerable numbers at our disposal. We know that some militia have entered the town of Balnahinch itself, and they seem to be set already about its destruction.
They'll be in there drinking and wrecking all around them. We need to get down there and attack them while it's dark.
No. First light, Dr. Swill. I've already decided.
I think that's a mistake.
I've already decided, and this is not the time to discuss it.
So you seem both anyway set upon the offensive?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Fighting broke out in the early hours of this morning. It seemed at first that the large rebel force might overwhelm the Monaghan militia in the town, and indeed, following a failed cavalry charge, General Nugent actually ordered a retreat toward Windmill Hill. At this crucial point, the United Irish actually managed to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Misinterpreting the retreat as a signal that Crown reinforcements had arrived, they began a retreat of their own, which the army quickly turned to their advantage, beginning a rout which lasted for the next several hours. What's happening?
I think someone wanted to kill one more kill. I don't think they saw me.
What about those hiding in the Montalto woods?
The cavalry took off after looting. Just cut them down.
Corporal, right here, Corporal! Get him! Get the dog, guys! Come on, you rebel! Go, dog! Get him, guys!
That's enough of that. Move along.
The sweep-up operation, combined with reprisals, has gone on. Some of this we have witnessed personally as the day has gone on, and a great many more stories continue to reach us by the hour. It's impossible now to see where the United Irish Rising in Ulster can go from here, or how the rebel leaders can redeem their situation, having failed to succeed in Antrim and now here in Balnahinch.
Due to the prompt action of the Army Command and the unyielding courage of Crown forces in Ulster, it is my signal pleasure to inform you gentlemen of the crushing of the rebel army in County Down. A camping operation is underway and will no doubt continue for several days at least, but no significant force remains in the field to threaten the peace.
Has there been any further sign of Mr. McCracken?
He has, not surprisingly, gone to ground. Information has been forthcoming from the general public, so...
And what of the continued possibility of intervention by the French?
Yes, indeed. We have ongoing intelligence in that matter, but more than that I cannot say at this time.
30,000 lives are believed to have been lost since the rising began in May. Among them, Henry Munro, Henry Joy McCracken, hanged in Belfast in July. And this morning, Theobald Wolfe Tone, acknowledged chief strategist of the United Irish Movement, died from an allegedly self-inflicted throat wound. A combined French and rebel force surrendered at Ballinamuck in County Longford in September, and there you might say the rebellion ended militarily. But of course the shockwaves will continue to be felt for some considerable time. Many of those who escaped the rope or the bullet have fled to the former British colony in America, where no doubt their revolutionary creed will continue to find an eager audience. And here at home, well, I spoke to Robert Emmett, a former law student from Trinity College, whose brother Thomas was involved in the recent conflict.
Social, economic, political and religious independence from England are goals which will continue to inspire Irish men and women of every class, as I'm sure will the memory of those brave individuals who this year attempted to make them a reality. This rebellion did not fail, as so many people might think. It served rather as an important learning experience for those who will conduct the next one.